Before Russia's full-scale invasion of Ukraine, there were unlawful activities. The most well-known of these activities is the annexation of Crimea. Crimea was annexed in 2014 following Russia's military intervention in Ukraine. This annexation, which was in violation of many treaties enforced between Russia and Ukraine, drew great reaction at the time. As a result of this act, which violated Ukraine's sovereignty, tense days began in the region. International authorities, particularly the United Nations Security Council, declared the annexation of Crimea and the subsequent referendum illegal. However, Russia's rule-breaking approach has led to growing problems in the region. It was revealed that Russian intelligence activities were behind the separatist movements in the region. The separatist movements that started in the territories belonging to Ukraine turned into a social incident due to the high Russian population in the region. Separatist groups supported by Russia started to disrupt public order. After all the tense days, the tension in the region stopped for a while. However, the Russian pressure and full-scale occupation attempt that began in the following years once again revealed the strategic importance of Crimea. Following Russia's full-scale invasion attempt against Ukraine, new developments took place in Crimea every day. We have already told you about the Crimean Bridge, which was frequently targeted by Ukraine in its counterattacks. This bridge, which connects Crimea with the Russian mainland and the Crimean Peninsula, are of great strategic importance in the region. The Crimean region continues to be important for both Ukrainian and Russian due to the ports of location. Recent developments in the region continue to favor Ukraine. The emerging news shows that Russia will not be able to hold on Crimea. Let's examine the latest developments in Crimea together. The audio recordings released by Ukrainian intelligence recently attracted great attention. In the published audio recordings, phone records of captured Russian soldiers were shared. In the audio recordings, it was said that the Ukraine was planning a major operation to take back Crimea. The anxious and fearful speech of the Russian soldiers was shared by thousands of people in the short time. In the audio recordings released by the Ukrainian Military Intelligence Directorate, the soldiers, identified as a member of the Russian army, informed a friend that Kiev would deploy a force of 150,000 soldiers with the tanks to the Crimean Peninsula. The Russian soldiers, confused that the worried speech, was met with a panic in the Russian side. The Crimean Peninsula is recognized by many countries as Ukrainian territory. Since the beginning of the war between Russia and Ukraine, Ukrainian President Volodymyr Zelensky has repeatedly said that Crimea will be liberated from occupation. In the audio recording, the Russian soldiers is heard talking about the preparations of the Ukrainian army. Stating that Ukraine is preparing something for Crimea, the Russian soldiers said that initially 3 divisions of 100,000 soldiers will arrive in the region. Later, he revised it by saying that 150,000 soldiers will arrive. Stating that Ukraine wants to recapture Crimea, the Russian soldiers said that there will be a big conflict. The Russian soldier claims that the first 2 divisions of Ukrainian forces would come for attack and sabotage, and the 3rd division would come for clearing operations. According to local sources, Russian troops in Crimea are very concerned about the possibility of an attack. The Russian authorities, in their briefings to the army, say that reserves will be brought to the region. However, the possibility of bringing reservists into the region still fails to calm Russian troops. The prospect of Ukraine's major operations seems to have already psychologically worn down the Russian army. Ukraine is expected to make big gains if it launches such a major offensive in Crimea. However, in recent months, Ukrainian President Volodymyr Zelensky's statements on Crimea have been shared. It was announced that the Ukrainian leader aimed to take back Crimea through political pressure instead of direct conflict. At this point, experts believe that this statement was made for the purpose of diversion, stating that the Ukrainian army is ready for any operation in terms of morale and motivation. Experts think that the Ukrainian army, which have been preparing for a while, may start a new operation. The Ukrainian Intelligence Directorate periodically shares data obtained from Russian soldiers. Sharing the phone calls, voice recordings, and the situation of the Russian soldiers with the public, Ukrainian intelligence reveals the psychological process of the war. As a result of the information shared, sources also report that Russian troops in Ukraine are showing low morale. In addition to the possibility of a Ukrainian attack on Crimea, Russia is struggling with another problem. According to information that has emerged in recent days, there is a major fuel problem in Crimea. When the Crimean bridge was damaged as a result of the Ukrainian operations, transportations between Peninsula and Russia was in a deadlock. It seems that the logistic problems experienced in Crimea in those days have not been solved. The fuel problem in Crimea, which is economically heavily dependent on Russia, is growing. According to reports, the fuel problem in Crimea had reached a chronic level despite Russia being one of the world's largest oil exporters. Ukrainian Interior Ministry official Anton Grashchenko mentioned this issue in his post. Stating that Crimean residents pay very high prices for diesel supplies, the official asked what happened in the gas station in Crimea. He also added that many regions in Russia are experiencing gas shortages. It was reported that last month that Crimea was facing gas shortages following the Ukrainian attack on the Kerch Bridge, which connects the Russian mainland to Crimea. According to local sources, it is known that some gas stations in Crimea are completely out of supplies. There are many reasons for the problem in Russia. First of all, the growing problems in Russia's logistic network cause fuel problems to increase. Longer than normal shipment times delay the replenishment of the stocks. Experts say that the problems are not only in Crimea but also in the southern regions of Russia, and that the weak states of the Russian economy also has a negative impact on the process. Russia's fuel sectors continues to suffer due to the weaknesses of rail networks, the cost of maintenance of oil refineries, and the weakening rubles. According to the information obtained in many Russian regions, including Krasnodar and Samara regions, there are low or no sales of fuel such as diesel. It is reported that patience is running out and the fuel problem in Russia has a negative impact on farmers. It is stated that farmers who cannot earn their livelihoods are in angry states. Sergei Kolesnikovs, the head of the Farmers Cooperatives Association in Stavropol region of Russia, said that farmers could not control their anger and were ready to go out and block the roads. The Kremlin is worried about the possible civil unrest in Russia. Therefore, a protest by the farmers would have a negative impact on the Kremlin's war posture. How do you assess the possibility of a major Ukrainian operation in Crimea? Do you think the Ukrainian army can succeed in retaking Crimea? What do you think about the Ukrainian intelligence sharing audio recordings and phone calls of captured Russian soldiers? Do you think the fuel crisis in Russia will be solved soon? Do you think Russia is showing the necessary interest and support to the Crimean Peninsula? We care about your opinion. Please share it with us.